the responsibility that comes with protest, that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. If you have been watching Legends and Lives of Patriots, you can see how effective protests against the British were in the American colonies. In fact, protests led directly to the freedoms we have today. The civil rights marches, led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a pacifist, were also very effective in mobilizing public opinion against Jim Crow laws and bias in general. Dr. King got a lot of accomplishments before he was assassinated. Now we have another protest situation in the USA whereby many African Americans believe that law enforcement works actively against them.
If you are a normal white American, the truth is you don't understand being black in America, and you instinctively underestimate the level of discrimination and the level of additional risk.
Mr. Gingrich is essentially correct. Skin color is a very personal situation. Every one of my black friends has felt diminished at times because of their complexions. It's wrong. There's no excuse for it, but it happens in every country. Enter American law enforcement, which is now under siege for allegedly treating black Americans more harshly than white Americans. Talking Points does not believe there is a design campaign of prejudice. What is happening here is cause and effect. Because black Americans commit far more crimes proportionally than whites or other ethnic groups, they come into contact with police more often. And that contact sometimes turns volatile. However, the key stat in the USA is that less than 2% of all police-civilian interactions result in any kind of physical confrontation. That's extremely low. The issue of incarceration, again, deals with crime. The inner-city drug traffic and the violence that comes along with that has put American police agencies and law-abiding citizens in a dangerous place. It's no surprise that black and Hispanic drug traffickers are arrested and incarcerated. No surprise. Their numbers are greater proportionally than white drug traffickers. Now back to the protests. The key group driving violence on the streets is Black Lives Matter. After 5 police officers were killed in Dallas, a Black Lives Matter organizer, Sir Major, said this according to the Associated Press, quote, "Black Lives Matter doesn't condone shooting law enforcement, but I have to be honest. I understand why it was done. I don't encourage it, I don't condone it, I don't justify it, but I understand." Now that's a provocative statement in the extreme. Understanding terrorism, which is what happened in Dallas, terrorism, it's not difficult. You get an evil human being who kills people, a 5-year-old can understand that. Major says he doesn't condone it, so what's the point of understanding it? Again, a ridiculous, irresponsible statement. But we have come to expect that kind of thing from Black Lives Matter, which chanted about police here in New York City, pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. Unfortunately, President Obama does not seem to understand the vitriol.
In a movement like Black Lives Matter, there's always going to be some folks who say things that are stupid or imprudent or overgeneralize or are harsh. And I don't think that you can hold well-meaning activists who are doing the right thing and peacefully protesting responsible for everything that is uttered at a protest.
With all due respect to President Obama, well-meaning activists do not associate themselves with a group that often commits violent acts and encourages violence through irresponsible rhetoric. Dr. King would not participate in a Black Lives Matter protest. Of course, the liberal American media largely sympathetic to the street demonstrations, even if they do turn violent. How many more times are we going to have to see Black Lives Matter protesters destroy stuff? How many more times? Yet if you criticize the group, you're branded a bigot by some far-left media precincts. Do you know that shortly after the Dallas police were murdered, a cop in Missouri was shot and critically wounded by a black man? The St. Louis County police chief says it was an assassination attempt. The accused shooter, 31-year-old Antonio Taylor, has a long rap sheet. He's a thug. In Minnesota, another police officer hit in the head by a concrete brick thrown by a protester on Saturday night. You guessed it, the demonstration was organized by Black Lives Matter. So again, Mr. President, you might want to back away from protesters who believe violence is acceptable. Summing up, you want to protest? Good. Make sure you have your facts straight and don't hurt anybody or destroy anything. And that's a memo. Now for the top story reaction, joining us from Washington, Charles Krauthammer. First, do you believe Barack Obama is sympathetic to the Black Lives Matter group?
I think he's sympathetic to what their purported aim. I think the mistake he makes is he confers upon them the moral authority and purity, if you like, that we saw in the civil rights movement. The reason that King wouldn't have participated in that kind of activity is because he would have led it, and he was able to instill the theory and the practice of nonviolence. And let's remember the difference in conditions between King's day and today. That was a time of official segregation, official discrimination. Today we live in a completely changed world, largely as a result of King, that makes the black-white divide very much more of a blur. As one example, look at the conditions in Dallas. A highly integrated police. This is not the 50s, this is not the South, where it's white police and black communities. You've got the chief who's black, you've got the attorney general who's black, and the president who's black. So how are you going to divide this into a white-black issue if so many of the police, for example, in New York and a lot of other big cities, are African-American? It just doesn't fit.
All right, well,
That's not the model. And Obama's mistake is to think that this is a repetition of the civil rights movement.
See, I think that President Obama's failure to condemn the Black Lives Matter movement, all right, is a terrible mistake and has led to a black-white divide. I might point out, and Charles knows this, but some viewers don't, that at the time Dr. King was protesting, there was a radical black movement led by Huey Newton, the Black Panthers. They were racing around all over the place. They were causing a lot of trouble. They were shooting cops. It was very violent. Dr. King repudiated that directly repudiated all of that. Yet now we have, the Black Lives Matter aren't as bad as the Black Panthers, but they do associate with the new Black Panthers. I mean, you know, they're in that crew. Now, white people, as Speaker Gingrich pointed out, they don't understand, and I agree with that. I mean, I want to know if you agree that we can't put ourselves in the shoes of black Americans who, when they walk into a store, they have eyes on them. I mean, it's insulting, and I understand that. So, but if you run with that, if that becomes your whole modus operandi, then we're never going to heal this.
And we're never going to have equal justice. I mean, you can't have a different set of rules because different communities have different experiences. That's a fact in a multicultural, multiracial, multilingual society. I don't know what it's like to be a newly arrived Hispanic immigrant or an American Indian living on a reservation, and yet we try to pass laws that apply equally. Look, we also are making some tremendously unwarranted assumptions. There's a study that came out of Harvard today by Professor Roland Fryer, a professor of economics at Harvard, that had a very surprising result. He studied the use of force, deadly force, shootings of black Americans by police, and he compared it to white Americans, and he found that for black Americans, the number is lower. He called it, it's in the New York Times of all places, the most surprising result of my career. And he, incidentally, the professor, is African American. Now, it turns out that other elements of the use of force, handcuffing, pushing up against the wall, is somewhat higher among African Americans. But shooting, which everybody assumes is higher among African Americans, it is not.
It is lower when compared to white Americans.
Exactly.
Right. But
compared to
what about,
that's
and this
against
is, I got to ask you one more.
Wisdom.
I got it. I got to ask you one more provocative question, and this is very provocative, but I have to ask it to Charles. There comes a point when police officers have had enough of disrespect of certain neighborhoods where they walked in, and the Dallas police chief said, hey, we're not getting any backup here. And I'm not saying it's a color-driven issue. I'm sure they're whites disrespectful to police as well. But there is a tremendous amount of disrespect in certain black neighborhoods toward the police, and the police react to it. They're human beings, and that causes a lot of this tension.
I'm sure that is so. And the other part, as you indicated in your talking points, is the fact that there's a very disproportionately high rate of crime, shooting, murder in the black community. And that's the reason why you get cops who are apprehensive, and particularly when they have a sense that the authorities, the ones above them, do not have their back, they feel even more put upon and likely to make mistakes or to act out of prejudice.
Yeah, they're more emotional.
So it doesn't help if at the top you get people who simply don't express sympathy with the cops, sympathy for their dilemma.
Well, President Obama did
them.
that. To be fair, he was very sympathetic to American law enforcement. His big mistake, and I got to run, is that he has not said to Black Lives Matter, knock it off. No more destruction of property, no more over-the-top rhetoric. It doesn't help the country. Charles, thank you. A couple of footnotes. We're hoping some agency does new polling on Black Lives Matter. In the meantime, on BillO'Reilly.com, we do have a poll question. Do you approve of Black Lives Matter or not? This is an unscientific poll, of course. Just go to our website, cast your vote. We know how the tally is going to turn out, but we want to see the plurality of it.